Hey everyone, Greg Meskel here. Great interview for you today. We're joined by water polo playing sisters that have taken on a much bigger cause here. I'm joined by June and Ginika Akpada. They both play water polo and they have launched 6on5.org. Thanks so much for both of you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
June, I'll start with you, and Ginika, feel free to jump in as well, but just kind of tell us, for those that are maybe unfamiliar, give us kind of the broad overview. What is 6on5 and what is the group looking to accomplish?
So basically 6on5 is an organization that we started that is based upon refurbishing equipment and kind of just taking equipment that would rather be thrown away or normally be thrown away, balls, caps, goggles, things like that, and essentially like revamping them so that they can be used for people who can't afford to buy them themselves. We're also interested in finding clubs to kind of sponsor athletes who can afford to pay for a membership themselves to help them through their time at the club as well.
Our overall goal in general is to get kids who, like June said, weren't able to start water polo maybe through financial means and give them all the equipment that they need, and maybe get them on track to be long-term athletes.
And Ginika, where did this idea, because there are a lot of ways, right, to try and help, how did the idea of kind of equipment refurbishment come about, and what's been the process to try and launch that effort?
So we've kind of been talking about this for a while. We've obviously paid for suits and for balls and for caps and goggles over the years, and you can definitely start to see the stuff that we've been using pile up over the years. So just started brainstorming a little bit with each other and going, well, I wonder I wonder if someone without these financial means, how they'd be able to go about doing this, or if they wouldn't even try at all. And so on our website, we've set up a donation link, and you can also donate goggles just in general, just that we'll try and refurbish. We've also gotten bungee cords because they're a little bit easier to put on the back of goggles than trying to get the original plastic band for the goggles. So that makes it a little easier to get them back up and running.
Oh yeah, it's a great idea, right? I think a lot of people might think the plastic band breaks and got to throw these away, right? But there's a great way to kind of keep those and give them new life. So you kind of hit on it a bit, but just kind of take us a bit more through the process. So someone's out there, they run a pool, they're a club, they have a bunch of old stuff, they want to help here. What's the best way for them to get it into the right people's hands?
Right. So we're still working on that, of course. I mean, we've got a plan right now for the goggles. For suits, we're still working on it because I know that the inside lining of suits can start to wear over time, and we're currently working on trying to figure out how we're going to go about that. Caps should be fairly easy. I know that latex caps and silicone caps you can get fairly easy if people would like to donate them. And then I think the process would just be trying to get balls and see how we're able to refurbish those.
Mm-hmm. But the best way is to head to your website, 6on5.org, and that's where current information, future details, that sort of thing will be?
Yes, and we'll still be working on it and putting out information as we figure it out and work on it.
Well, really exciting project. I know it's a lot of work. You're both in school, you're playing water polo, there's a lot of things going on. So appreciate you taking the time to also explain this. June, as Ginika was kind of talking about, right, this is a work in progress, right? So there's a lot more to be done. But what's been the response so far as you've kind of gotten the word out and tried to share things on social media? What have you heard back from people in the water polo community?
Just some friends that have reached out to me, kind of just seeing the, I think it was our picture that was put in one of the Skip Shot magazines. They were definitely excited to see us there and to see that we're trying to do something to kind of give back to a community that has given a lot to us.
And now I know that the equipment refurbishment, the donations, that's one part of your mission, but just looking through some of the other things that that you two have put together and that you're working on. You have some longer term goals as well. Can you tell us a bit about some of those?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the longer term goals we have is basically to find people to sponsor um, kids who want to start pursuing water polo and swimming as a sport that they want to compete in, who can't necessarily afford it on their own. So we want to reach out to people to see if they would be willing to sponsor them, pay for some of their club dues to support them throughout their career as a polo player or swimmer or both.
And Ginnika, to that end, um, how do you think that will improve water polo to kind of open up opportunities for those that maybe couldn't afford it or didn't know about it or thought maybe it was out of their reach financially?
I definitely think it'll help a lot. I remember being in high school and playing water polo exclusively and having some friends who were doing other things, or maybe not even doing extracurricular activities. And even when I did mention water polo, with all of the added costs, when they found out it wasn't really a thought anymore that they were planning to start water polo at all. And we don't want that to be an issue anymore. We want kids to be able to choose whether they want to play water polo, if they really, really like it, to keep continuing doing it and not just have to pull out because it's not financially acceptable for them to do anymore.
We hit previously on Brenda Villa, a legend in the sport, and has done so much to try and grow the game. I know one of the goals of 6 on 5, right, is to try and collaborate with Brenda and her foundation. Ginnika, just tell us a bit more about that and how you kind of hope to work with Brenda.
So we kind of just wanted to strategize to reach out to different corporate entities, possibly like the Congress and the Department of Education, Health, local and state governments, to basically provide clubs and coaches with funding to be able to basically support those young athletes who are interested in pursuing swim or polo.
And then another thing I saw in the documents you put together was a reference to the HBCUs, historically Black colleges. And it was, I think last year, USA Volleyball started an initiative to try and help seed programs at some HBCUs for the varsity level. What's your intention with water polo? I think it'd be great. I'd love to see water polo at every college in the country, right, including HBCUs. What's the hope there to try and maybe build some programs where they don't exist?
Absolutely. Because I know that the two of us are not, meaning being Black athletes, especially in water polo. We haven't seen a lot of people who tend to look like us or who are also playing the sport. Of course, there is Ashley Johnson, so there is her. But we definitely would like to see kids being able to go to historically Black colleges and be able to play water polo and have it offered as a sport. And like you just said, it's really interesting that volleyball is also doing that too. So yeah, definitely want to strive to do that.
And you hit on something that's so important that comes up so often when talking to Ashley or Brenda or really any athlete of color, the idea of representation, and that if you can see someone that looks like you doing something right, it can kind of inspire you. You just talked about not seeing many athletes that look like you playing a sport that you love to play. What do you think it would mean if that changed a bit and that there were a lot more people that looked like you did playing the sport that you love?
I think we definitely see a lot more kids signing up and joining clubs with the fact that financial stability isn't in the equation anymore, and they can just go out, have fun, do something that their friends maybe are also doing, try a new sport. And I think we'll see a lot more kids that are wanting to try it out and maybe keep it long term.
Tell me a little bit about, and I'll ask each of you this, about your experience in water polo and just what you've liked about it that has kind of kept you involved. And June, if you want to start, obviously you're both playing college, you've played for a long time. What is it about the game that keeps you in it?
I just love being challenged and competing in something that is difficult. It takes a lot of mental strength, physical strength, and I love pushing myself and just proving that I can accomplish something that I'm not so, maybe part of me is not so sure that I can, and then just kind of pushing myself.
I've personally found when I first started water polo when I was, I think, 11 or 12, I was a really shy kid. I didn't really talk to people a lot. I kind of stayed in my shell a little bit. Water polo definitely brought me out of my shell. I became a lot more outgoing and wanted to talk to people and interact with people. There's a huge community around water polo. I never had issues finding friends, which was really fun too. And I'm hoping that that becomes, and I think that's the case for a lot of people too. They find a huge community in water polo, and I definitely love to embrace that.
We hit earlier on the idea of talking about representation in the sport, and the last 6-8 months, there's been a lot going on, obviously, in the U.S. when you're talking about social justice, racial equity, those sorts of things. A lot of tough moments, to put it mildly. But one of the positives that has come out of that has been a focus on water polo, I think, from within the community to try and broaden it and try and make it more diverse, more inclusive. If you think about your group, 6 on 5, the alliance that's been formed, USA Water Polo's Racial Equity and Reform Task Force, what sort of momentum have both of you sensed during these last 6 to 8 months about helping to make water polo a more inclusive and diverse place?
Yeah. So there's definitely, just with everything that's been going on, been a push for a lot of different institutions to incorporate more diversity into their programs, but a lot, especially for USA Water Polo. And I definitely see that as a positive thing. Like we said, we experienced a lot of just confusion and just weirdness, not really seeing people who look like us like competing in water polo, also swimming. So I definitely think that is a really, really big step in the right direction for racial equity within water polo.
There was definitely a lot that we had to deal with not seeing people who looked like us. And I know that there are probably girls and boys who are growing up now who might want to try the sport, and just thinking that with this, that they'll not have to deal with that anymore, and not, be able to see people that look like them is really, really important for us.
So what else should we know about 6 on 5? You've hit on, I think, a lot of the key things that you're working on, that are in progress, that we hope for the future. Anything else we should know about what you're working on here, just so folks can make sure that they're kind of informed and they can get involved if they want to?
We are kind of trying to make this a long-term thing. It isn't just going to be like a little thing where you're kind of doing this for a while and it tends to kind of just fade. We want to make this a statewide, maybe even countrywide initiative where everybody's kind of doing this, maybe setting up little areas where different people are sending in goggles to areas of their community that they feel need exposure to water polo, need some help with goggles and equipment and everything. So I'm hoping that, or at least that we're looking towards doing that. And
yeah, and if anyone has any old equipment that you're thinking of throwing away that you think it's run its course, definitely check out our website 6on5.org and just get in contact with us to give us those or any equipment that you have, and so we can work on refurbishing that.
Maybe I'm looking too deep into the name of the organization, and you tell me. But I thought it was cool that it's framed 6 on 5 and not 5 on 6. Like it's in the affirmative. Like, and I wondered if your group felt like you could be kind of that player advantage, the extra man or extra woman to kind of help out a group that needs help, as opposed to being in the disadvantage.
Yes, that was definitely what we were going for with the name. We kind of molded over for a while, and you're like, this it kind of represents what our whole mission, basically. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, June and Ginika Akpata, appreciate you taking the time here to talk to us all about 6 on 5. You can learn more at 6on5.org. Some great things are on the way from these two.